So, when it comes to video games and movies, I understand remakes can make a masterpiece a little bit better or it could ruin it. Here's my take on it. Right now, we're living in the remake age of video games. And quite frankly, I love the remakes. I fucking enjoy them. I actually played the new Dead Space remake earlier this year. It was literally the most brutal, fucked up, intense game I ever played in my entire life. I don't think anything can top it. But why couldn't they just make a Dead Space 4 and use the same formula and continue the storyline? Not complaining. It sounds like that, but I'm not. Because this game was actually like I'll give this game a 10 out of 10 in terms of like terror, sickness, like horribility, and just outright gameplay. Gameplay was amazing. Combat system was just off the fucking wall. The storyline exactly as it should have been left alone because the entire Dead Space franchise is one of the most fucking brutal horror franchises ever. I'm talking like it beats Nightmare on Elm Street, the movie franchise. It beats, uh, Friday 13th. Which, if anyone knows me, I'm a huge fan of Jason Voorhees. This beats that. Like the Alien movies can't hold a candle to what Dead Space has to offer. Absolutely nothing. But like, they really have to do a remake. They couldn't just do a part four and like make it like super ridiculous and fucked up. I mean, it stars the same character, Isaac Clarke, but like, come on, like, could have done a part four. Part three was trashy because they focused too much on the multiplayer aspect of it. Oh, we could go play. I could get my friend to help me beat the game. Like, cool, that's cool, but like, the idea was there. It was well written, but it was poorly executed. I mean, poorly executed. It was horrible. But the story was amazing. The whole thing about the Brother Moons, when they talk about unitology and all that stuff. That like really blew my mind. Dead Space 3 was story wise really fucking good. Gameplay wise, it's trashy. But let's get back to the whole idea of remake culture. Resident Evil 4 came out this year. That game came out on PS. The game originally came out on GameCube back in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong about my trivia, but it came out, and they originally came out on the GameCube, and the PS2 version came out, and they offered like 50% more content, the separate ways and the assignment Ada, all these extra weapons, there's more secrets, all that shit. Like, okay, that's cool. But like, what I'm really getting at is just, I don't know. They could have done Resident Evil 9. I mean, and most of my friends will disagree with me. I think Resident Evil 8 was awesome. I loved it. A lot of my friends who are big fans of the Resident Evil series hated it. Not all of them, but a lot of them. They're like, oh man, werewolves and witches and shit. It's like, if you actually pay attention to the actual story instead of focusing on the voodoo crazy shit that they're fucking throwing at you, you'll understand why it makes sense in the genuine Resident Evil universe. And when I'm thinking about it, I think this is the Resident Evil's Village was the first genuine supernatural Resident Evil franchise game in the regular storyline. I'm trying to think. Even with Close Code Veronica, the Outbreak series, Revelation series, Mercenaries, like I'm talking all of them, Survivor series, like none of those really have any supernatural things, and they explain to you in Resident Evil 8 if you read the files of the game, listen to what the fuck's going on. It's not supernatural. It's actually all goes back to the progenitor virus, which is where the T, the G, T Veronica, the A, and the C virus come from. Like, like it's almost like They're all tyrants. If anybody plays Resident Evil knows what a tyrant is, it's almost like a village full of tyrants. And like those weird little creepy things that the witches make, or whatever the fuck they're called, whatever they are, the vampires, Lady Domesticatru, those little creepy things you find in the dungeons. They're like the zombies, except they can't infect you; they just fuck you up. But like, side note about Resident Evil, I thought about it the other night when I was playing it. Have you ever noticed that the only creature in the entire two creatures, three, I think about it, that have the ability to directly infect you with the T virus to turn you into a zombie is zombie. Just had it in my head. The Howler monkeys from Resident Evil Zero, they'll fuck you up and turn you into a zombie or just maul you to death. Crimsons don't count because they're just super zombies. They're like zombies on steroids they're like zombies on steroids who run the fucking the stair climber for like 8 hours. But like, what's the other one I was thinking of? Oh my god. Oh, the dogs. And the dogs. Zombies, dogs, crows. Oh, I forgot about the crows. So zombies, dogs, crows. That's it. Spiders can't infect you. Lickers can't infect you. Hunters can't infect you. Or at least they haven't explained at all that they can. Because everyone who's turned into a zombie in the entire franchise that's been recorded through the files, dialogue, or anything like that, has always been, I say like 80% of the time, got bit by a zombie or a dog. Or a crow. But yes, these birds in Raccoon City can come down from the sky, peck you in the face, as they call it a murder. It's a group of crows, and now you're a zombie. Happened to Forrest Speyer in the first game, and he turned out to be the strongest zombie in the entire fucking game. Anyways, I just wanted to express how much I appreciate these remakes. They're masterpieces. I mean, genuinely terrifying fucking games. Hard, like me, as a survival horror nerd, someone who's been playing Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Fatal Frame, Dead Space, Callisto Protocol, all these fucking games. Callisto Protocol is weak. Manhunt, all these fucking games, you know, what else? Evil Within. I played it all. And honestly, I could appreciate reboot culture a little bit. Actually, no, they're not reboots. They're genuine remakes. Why did I say reboot? They're actual remakes. Like, frame for frame, just better graphics, physics, all that shit. But I just want a Dead Space 4 and a Resident Evil 9. Or if they're going to remake another Resident Evil game, why not give Code Veronica a try? Or, hear me out, the Outbreak series. The Outbreak series had the potential to be one of the greatest survival horror multiplayer games ever. But like I said before, poor execution equals poor game. Just didn't do it right. But they can. And I have faith that they will. Maybe Resident Evil 9 will have a decent multiplayer game. We all know Resident Evil 6 was a complete, like, trash heap. You have 4 individual, I'm including A. Wong's story. Even though you have to unlock her, I'm including her story. So, like, you got Leon and Helena, Chris and Pierce, and you got Sherry and Jake, and then you got Ada Wong and some random agent who was only inserted into the game post-patch, day 1 patch, so people can multiplayer Ada Wong, which was stupid because Ada Wong works alone. We all know that. But yeah, I'm actually kind of conflicted on how I feel about these remakes. I mean, the 2002 remake of Resident Evil 1, which only came out 6 years after the original, was wildly beautifully executed. I mean, like, that game was fucking awful. It was so good. Like, I mean, terrifying. Like, absolutely, like, you didn't know what zombies going to become at Crimson Head, when the hunters were going to be around the corner, when the hunters first came introduced. Um, like, and this is to this day, that Resident Evil, that GameCube remake, Resident Evil, is still my favorite one. To this day, still my favorite one. I have it on my PS3. I had it on PS3. I had it on GameCube. Then they re-released it, remastered it for PS3. I re-downloaded on my PS4, and if I get a PS5, it's going on there too. The game counts how many times you've beaten it. According to my last save file on the PlayStation alone, maybe 17 times, maybe more. You know, I'm a nerd, and I like these things. I like horror, like scary stuff. Ooh, no, but I like horror games a lot. And Dead Space, the original Dead Space was executed perfectly. I mean, perfectly. That was in 2007. Now it's what, 7, 14, 21. Like, games, game's almost 20 years old. And the remake was so good. But I wish they had just done a Dead Space 4. Let's not get into Silent Hill, because I'm told it's supposed to be Silent Hill 2 remake, and I'm hearing no word about it. And that is the best one in the franchise. It had Pyramid Head, mannequin, like crazy weird mannequins, non-zombie creatures, nurses that like would kill each other and trying to kill you, and a man grieving a wife that he killed. It was, the whole story was just fucked up. I would say Silent Hill takes the cake for the most fucked up storyline, and it's out of all survival horror franchises. Silent Hill takes it. Like, if you're trying to like write a game that's really fucked up, try to beat Silent Hill, because it's not terrifying, it's not scary, it's very psychological. Like, it gets in your fucking head, like, you know. But like, well, the storyline's just fucked up, and the movies for Silent Hill, my opinion, are so true to the story that the movies are fucking amazing. The Resident Evil movies, not a single one. Not even the 2000, the year when it goes to year 2000. Mila Jovovich played the role of Alice, and there was a laboratory, the Hive, and all that shit. No, not even Welcome to Raccoon City, where they tried to reboot the franchise movies. No, the animated movies are good, but like the live action, there's not a single good Resident Evil action movie in my opinion. I think they're awful. I think every single one of them is just awful, like terrible, like completely bad. And I love Mila Jovovich. I love Michelle Rodriguez. I thought when I saw that them two were gonna be in the movie, I thought it was gonna be like a horror masterpiece. I was like, holy fucking shit! I was 12 when that movie came out, and like, I was already into horror. You know, I was already watching Jason Voorhees and like, you know, like all that shit, Leatherface, and you know, but like, um, just I don't know. I think Capcom. Just not conceited, but I will for a minute. Just sign the rights to the Resident Evil movies over to me. So I would do it. Let's start with first movie, The Mansion. Just the mansion. They escape the mansion. Because in the game, they escape the mansion. Well, whoever doesn't die escapes the mansion. Second movie, Raccoon City. The infection and the spread of the T-virus through Raccoon City. Part 3, the end of the infection to Raccoon City. Raccoon City's demise. And I would just do 3 of them, that's it. I don't have to do maybe about 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. Just the first three. My God, Capcom, give me that. People would love me. Would love those movies because they would be like shot for shot the exact how the game would play out. But like on the big screen, it'd be brutal as shit. It would be absolutely brutal. I'm talking like it might get an NC-17 rating, and they were gonna have to tell me to tone it down, and not for any kind of sexual content, just because like I would make it like super fucking brutal, and wicked. I'm talking George Romero, eat your heart out. No, don't eat your heart out, George Romero. Rest in peace. I love you. You're the reason these things exist. Boy, come on. But there's a few Dead Space movies that were actually really fucking good, but they're all animated. If you want to sit down through like an anime style movie or anything like that, I suggest watching Dead Space movies. There's 2 of them, maybe even 3. I always saw 2. I think there might be a 3rd one that I haven't watched. But like, anyways, getting back to it. I'm just ranting about how like I wish there was just a Dead Space 4 and a Resident Evil 9 and a Silent Hill. What was the last one I did? 4 was The Room. Then I did Downpour. I had Origins. I think Downpour was the last one. That came out in 2011 or 2010. Like, that's the last time they came up with like an original Silent Hill game that wasn't like, a rehash. Like, I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything after Downpour. I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything after Downpour. And it was a good game. A little too open world for me for a survival horror game. I don't think survival horror games should be open world. I really don't. That's just me. Like, when it comes to survival horror, like you gotta limit your resources. I got the formula for a really good survival horror game. Limit resources. Every survival horror fan knows this. Claustrophobia. Get you in a tight corner. Surrounded by monsters. What you gonna do? Puzzles. Complicated puzzles. I'm talking like seriously, like mind teasers, psychological fuck you in the head bullshit puzzles. What else? Maps. That's the one thing I had about the Callisto Protocol when I tried playing it. There's no map, and it's like they try to make it like this open world game without a map, like a non-linear game, and you can't give me a map. Like Dead Space, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Fatal Frame, like all these hardcore horror games, Clock Tower, they all had maps. They all had like detailed, intricate maps so you don't get lost. In the Callisto Protocol, I got lost like 100 times and I stopped playing it. Not because it was hard, because I just kept running in circles, not knowing where the fuck I was going. There's no like memos you can look up to like figure out where you're going. Anyways, I know my opinion don't matter, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, we need new original content. Remakes are great, especially since they're being very well executed these days. I mean, Resident Evil's 2 and 3 remakes were fucking phenomenal. The Resident Evil 4 remake was really fucking good. It was actually kind of scary, scarier than the original. They got rid of the quick time events, which is good. As anyone knows, QTEs are garbage. Even they still use them in the new Dead Space game, or whatever. Let me leave you with this opinion. Dead Space, the remake, is really fucking good. If you're looking... Oh, and Evil Within's a really good franchise. I forgot to check. Dead Space, the remake, might be the single most fucked up terrifying horror experience I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm gonna play through it again because everything is random. So when you play through it a second time, you don't get the same monsters coming out of the same walls. You don't get all like pretty much don't remember what's going on because it's not gonna matter. Like I know in Resident Evil, all the zombies are like pre-placed and they're all placed in specific areas by the programmers and all that shit. Not in Dead Space. They have an algorithm where like, oh, and another thing, false sense of security. That's the fourth one. Just 5 hour false sense of security. You gotta give the player a false sense of security. Make them think that they're safe and that they're in a room. Oh, there's a safe point here. Like, I must be good for a few rooms. Nah. As soon as you give them that one room to save where they can't get hurt. Give them that room where they can fuck with their inventory and save the game and not get fucked with by the enemies. That's cool. Like Dino Crisis, all that shit had that. What Dino Crisis did, what Dead Space did was you open the door, it's either a dinosaur, or a necromorph, respectively. It's a huge game. Honestly, I'm more scared of necromorphs than dinosaurs. I'd rather get swallowed by a T-Rex than have a necromorph chase me down a fucking hallway. And whoever thought of necromorphs, they're obviously based on xenomorphs. Whoever thought of necromorphs is a sick, twisted, and brilliant motherfucker. Like, Dead Space, if there was more games in the franchise, I'd say to me, I would prefer it over Resident Evil, but because of, like, how many more Resident Evil games there are, and they actually are, most of them, I didn't say all, most, are entertaining and fun to play. Not all of them, though. Resident Evil 6. I mean, yeah. But, I don't know. When it comes to Silent Hill, the first game was good. I don't know why they didn't redo that. That would have been a really good remake. Resident Evil, Silent Hill 1 was really good. Silent Hill 2 was the best. Silent Hill 3 was really good. Silent Hill 4 was garbage. Then they came out with Origins, Homecoming, and Downpour. The other one I honestly will never play again is the Silent Hill 4 The Room. That game was just so much backtracking. I know backtracking is like a huge part of survival games, but so much backtracking. Oh, remember that room you went to 20 fucking minutes? Like 20 rooms ago? Yeah, there was a key in there that you couldn't find without this memo you found in this room. And it's like, really? Couldn't just send me back like 2 rooms? No, I gotta go back to the fucking the room, as it's called in the game. I'm just ranting. Sorry. Just ranting about survival horror. We haven't had a decent original survival horror game in a while. And like I said, the new Red Dead Space remake's probably the sickest, brutal, most fucked up, disturbing game I've ever played. That game gets 10 out of 10 in my book. I'm talking gameplay, terror, everything. Character, like I actually give a shit about the characters. I give a shit about completing the game. There's puzzles that are complicated yet, that are challenging yet like doable. I need to do a survival horror game. Dead Space set the bar really high, like above Resident Evil, way above Resident Evil. So I'm going to create a game. My direct competition is Electronic Arts. And they got the money. Do they have the talent, the knowledge, and the fact? And they have real horror nerds in there? Or are they just, asking people what scares you? They should do a Dead Space VR game. Yeah, they should. Because I'd play it. When I played Resident Evil 7 VR, I almost shit myself. It's terrifying. But anyways, I'm signing off.